I suppose that, adults, particularly with disabilities, would be one of the harder areas to raise the charity donation dollar for. I don't know exactly why that is, but it's not a popular. It's not sexy, I suppose, that people see adults. I don't know whether they assume because they're 18 that they can look after themselves, and it's probably quite the contrary, where the children here often will have families that will look after them, whereas the adults will have aged parents that are going to die. If they're disabled and don't have use of perhaps upper arm, who will wipe their bum? You know, it's as simple as that and as crude as that, I suppose. There are no services, and if you're poor, you can't afford help. There is no pension or anything like that for people with disabilities. But the whole aim would be geared towards self-sufficiency. We're not sort of looking at holding people's hand forever, and we need to really be empowering them. So hence the Women's Workshop and setting up small businesses for the different men that we've got on board, so they can have that. That's what they want. They want to be independent.
Right. Yeah. And the Disabled Workshop, we saw that today. They're hoping to put together an internet business where they can...
That's our vision with that, that we can produce a really good quality small range of products that will be commercially viable and set up a sustainable internet business for the group of women, and then within that group of women hopefully we'll have teachers and trainers that will come out of that. You know, I mean, every charity will tell you they need money, you know, I mean, in order to, you know, function and improve and grow, you need funds. But I think, you know, I've taken an approach that I've let this develop organically, if you like, to some extent, and rather than me charter a direction, I've sort of sat back and waited for the next thing to present itself and said, okay, well, yeah, I'll jump on that for the ride, and then I've steered the ship, if you like, rather than had a business module. And I think with charities you can't operate that way. You really need to just sort of sit in the community, and the needs evolve. It becomes evident, you know, so you might address one issue at the beginning, which in my case was education, because that's what I was really comfortable with. But you can't educate kids if they come to school on an empty tummy. Right. Do you know, so then you go, okay, well, I need to be looking at that. So that just then evolves, and then if there are other social implications and issues in the family situation, you go, okay, well, then obviously we need to be addressing that at this point. So that's pretty well how this is all developed, yeah.
And if there are volunteers looking at this who want to help, you know, what's the best use of their time? Should they be here? If they should be, how long should they be here?
Probably our website to guide them would be the best way. We do need skilled volunteers, opposed to extra hands. In terms of extra hands, I'd rather upskill our Vietnamese people and train them how to help their own people. And then I suppose on our website we post the list of skills that we need, and not short-term volunteers in the, you know, it takes a while to just sort of be in the community and sit in that community and understand what the needs are. So yeah, short postings are probably not ideal for most of the NGO groups, I would say.
And short posting is less than a month or less than 3 months?
Yeah, about a month would be the, you know, takes you a week at least to just sort of, you know, get acclimatised and get over the cultural shock if you haven't been to Asia, so, yeah.
And you've got a handful of volunteers here already?
I have. And there's...
Up to 10, I think we counted, or...?
Yeah. And, you know, that would be absolutely enough.
That's enough?
Absolutely. Yeah, because what that does in effect is takes me away from my work, because that's micromanaging, you know, 10 other personalities and also the workload that they've got to do. So I'm mindful that...
And you mentioned that you just got a grant from the Wheeler Foundation?
It's Planet Wheeler Foundation, and it's huge, yeah. That's enabled us to purchase a property here in Hoi An for the purpose of setting up a free therapies clinic. Because we've got a large group of disabled people that are all in need of pain management for starters. We're going to start up a free physiotherapy clinic, hopefully tying in with Monash University in Melbourne, Australia. Setting up a program where fourth year graduates would be coming over each year, working with our physiotherapists that we employ here, but upskilling them and staying for periods of maybe 6 to 8 weeks, working out programs and also exposing them to problems that they wouldn't encounter in Australia, so it'll be a cross-cultural exchange. But I really like the idea of linking in with a Western university, because that also will open us up to other therapies. We'll start with physio because that's what we need, but then there's 1,000 other therapies that we could, help these people with. So the house will be a therapies free clinic for disabled and disadvantaged people. We've got 2 other major groups that we tie in with, and that's probably, sufficient.
Right.
Yeah.
Those groups being?
That'd be Hoyan Foundation with Josh Solomon.
Yeah.
So that's the medical arm to what I'm doing. And then CHIA, which is Children's Hope in Action, founded by Robin Morley, and that is primarily working with children with disabilities up to 18. So, and then I would be taking over after 18 with disabilities.
Dealing with government's obviously been a problem over time.
I think, look, I understand it though. Do you know what I mean? I think initially it wasn't easy, but then if you look at it and reverse the situation, if we had someone coming into our respective countries that didn't speak the language, that had some new ideas they wanted to implement and work with our children, we'd be saying, hold on a minute, who are you?
Right, certainly.
And you would have to go through a process of proving yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's simply what I've gone through. It took 3 or 4 years for, I think, the government to realise I was serious, I was a long-termer. There's probably a lot of people that come, drop in, good intentions, but short-termers.
Yeah.
And are gone, lots of promises and things don't evolve. So I think that's just a natural process, and then the government and the officials would say, well, you are doing what you say that you're going to do and following through. So.
And if someone's looking at setting up a similar foundation here to do similar types of work?
True, so. But I don't ever want to lose touch with what's real about this, and that's the people. So. And I suppose for that reason we'll probably always stay small, and that's okay.
That's okay.
Have no desire to have, the 3-story, whiz-bang office in some city somewhere.
Right.
So at this point in time you could look at any of my files and ask about any of the families, and I pretty well know who's doing what, where and how. And that's probably how it will remain. So it's really personal. But that way I've got a handle on things, and as a small operation, I'm realistic also, because we are working primarily in one community, and if we can affect a generational change, then I'll be happy with that as my legacy, opposed to quick band-aid sort of stuff.
How big is too big, say, for you, or for, say, for
too big is me losing touch.
Right, that's the measure?
That's exactly the measure. If you looked at one of my families and said, what's the story with this one, Karen, and I was stumped, then I would have a problem with myself at that point,
And do you, from your experience, is that the same with other similar organisations? Let's say Robin or at CHIA, or...
They're all very hands-on, and I think probably work in a similar fashion,
And that's their limit as well, do you think?
I don't know. There's always the temptation when you hear the problems are never ending. They're never going to go away. You're not going... At some point you probably need to put a bit of a boundary around things and say, okay, well, I'm happy with what I've got on board now, and rather than spreading any wider, I'll actually go deeper with the work that I'm doing, and I think that's where I'm at